Hi, it's George Nordhaus, and welcome to Monday morning. We're going to have something unusual today. I guess I always say that, but it is unusual because we're going to talk about something that's near and dear to every independent insurance agent and staff, I hope. It's all about claims handling. And when I heard Emily Huling talk about, and I was making notes like crazy, carrying claim handling, I said, wait a minute, I got to get her on this one and tell this because this is so important to agencies. And I'll bet you she's got 10 points she's going to make. I'll bet you that anybody listening to this won't be doing all 10 right now. I don't know whether that's a good bet or not. Emily, what do you think? Is that a good bet or should I not do that?
Yes, usually people come up with one they're not yet executing.
That's great. Well, let me tell you about Emily. Let me show you Emily's picture here, and I'll show you what well, you've all heard of her, I'm sure. She's very, very popular because she goes around the country, makes many, many talks. She's a CIC and a CMC. What's a CMC? I'm sorry, Emily, I just don't know.
It's a certified management consultant.
Oh, I didn't know that. How about that? I learned something else today. Well, she's founder and president of Selling Strategy. She's in Terrell, North Carolina. And it's a consulting, development, speaking firm specializing in sales and service in the insurance industry. She consults with agents, insurance companies, MGAs. She says this is her 20th year in business. Wow, Emily, you're going to catch up with me one of these days. Many of you have seen her in industry conferences. She teaches for the Society of CIC, and she's got all kinds of learning information that she's developed over the years. And she has a monthly newsletter, which I get a kick out of. It's Energizer Minutes. It's wild because she talked about what she's doing, and it just kind of makes it nice, Emily. It's a good feeling. I kind of like to see it. And then you've written a dozen books. I didn't realize that you've written that many. She's got a lot of audio programs, great service sales, selling from the inside, kick your butt. I love that one. Removing obstacles to sales success. Well, at any rate, she's going to be talking today to us about carrying claim handling. And Emily, I would have thought all claim handling is carrying, isn't it?
Well, one would think so, but somehow we have dropped the ball. We spend so much time talking about acquisition of business, don't we, George? Everything's about new business and
that's my bag, yeah.
Production, and somehow the reason that people buy policies is for when a claim occurs. And somehow I think a lot of agents in the day-to-day mayhem of business lose sight of this. And I wanted to start with the story about Nate, claim process gone wrong. I was conducting an all-day workshop for a group of agencies in the Midwest, non-competing agencies, friendly agencies, who do something I know you will approve of, George. Twice a year, they shut down their offices. These are Main Street retail independent agencies. They shut down their offices for a day, one in the spring and one in the fall, and they get everybody together, about 30 people in these 5 agencies, and they have a one-day workshop to talk about serving the client, sales, and improving operations.
Great.
Isn't that great?
Mm-hmm.
So a couple of years ago, I had the opportunity to speak with them for the full day. And it was my normal material. It was turning service into sales. It was being proactive with your clients, you know, adding value to the business. And the afternoon session was about, everyone knew what the agenda was. The afternoon session was about carrying claim handling. So we break for lunch, and we come back after lunch. Everyone knows that that's the topic for the afternoon. And one of the agents walks in, it's Nate, and he literally is white as a ghost, and he approaches me and he said, I have a story to tell you, and it has to do with our topic this afternoon about claim handling. And I said, well, do you want to tell me privately first? He said, oh, yes. And you could tell he was rattled. And here's what he tells me. He had just checked his voicemail messages over lunch, and he had a call from a policy holder. Now, let me hold it there and take you back the day before, which is what he told me. He had a call from a policy holder because the day before, this commercial lines client had a claim. And when he called Nate the day before to say, hey, I have a claim, Nate thought he was doing the expedient, caring thing by saying, you know what, instead of telling me all about your claim, you'll just have to repeat it when you talk to the company. So here's the company's 800 number. Let me know if you need me. So Nate hadn't heard anything. The guy said, oh, okay. So the policyholder apparently that afternoon called the claim in. And the next morning, the policyholder calls Nate and leaves him this voicemail message that left him rattled. And Nate said what this voicemail message was. And it was this: hey, if you're my agent and I have a claim and you turn me right over to the company, what the heck do I have you for?
He's right.
Isn't that telling?
Yeah.
So sometimes agents think that the expedient, the helpful, we don't want to waste our clients' time approach is to turn them over to the company. And yet, who do people buy insurance from? Who? You.
Absolutely.
An individual. And I don't know if you in your social circles will ever say to someone, who's your insurance with? George, do they name the company?
No, they name the agent.
No. Do they even name the agency?
No, it's the agent.
No. They say George.
Yeah.
They say Emily.
Mm-hmm.
They say the person.
Mm-hmm.
So we have every opportunity in the world to shine, to look great, to reinforce why they bought from us. So, George, should we launch into my 10 tips?
Absolutely. Let's do it because we want to. We need it.
This is why we're here.
Right.
Is to talk about these 10 tips. So the first tip is obvious, springboarding from the story about Nate, who realized, why do people buy? From you, for you. Because you add the value. It's the personal connection. So here's what I suggest. Take the claim, and a lot of people really don't want to take the claim because they will have to repeat the whole thing to the company. Understand. But if that's the case and you want to stay involved, conference in the adjuster. Say to your policyholder, hey, first of all, you want to say to the policyholder, oh my goodness, tell me what happened. How are you? Do something caring. Don't just say, hey, we want to save you time. So hear them out. Show emotional intelligence. Show empathy. Show caring. And then say, hey, you know what I think the best thing to do? Let me call the company, and let me get a hold of the person who will be taking the claim, and then they'll be assigning it to an adjuster. And how about if I stay on the call to be sure that it's handled properly, that I can guide you, that I can hear what's going on?
I like that.
Yes. So, either take the claim, if that's the procedure in your agency, the whole thing, and turn it in, or at the very least, conference in the company, the adjuster, and be on the call when the claim is given to the company.
Okay.
And then I have two other points there. Follow up in 24 hours. And the 24 hours, and then 3 days later. But the 24 hours is this. Again, you want to show emotional intelligence. You want to show empathy. You want to say, hey, since we last spoke, and claims are rattling, they're unnerving. It's territory we haven't been on before. We need a guide. We need someone to tell us that what's going on is normal or unusual. So 24 hours later, how are you? And then I suggest you follow up 3 days later to be sure. Now, the companies are terrific. But 3 days later, please follow up and say, hey, is everything going as expected? Is there any advice I can give you? Is there anything else I need to tell you? Is there anything you need for me to do? Isn't that the way to show our value?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So that's my first tip. Make sure that we are capitalizing on that personal connection that our clients expect. Now, today, everybody carries everything they have in the palm of their hand, don't they, George?
Amen, including me.
Yes, it doesn't matter. It's ageless anymore. But website information, So people are going to maybe not want to call you. The first thing they're going to do is go to your website and find that claims tab. And they're going to say, boy, what instructions does my agent give me? Where do I start? And a lot of people want to start, do it yourself. And so let me give you the wording from an agency's online website that they use to report a claim. And it's simply, under the claims tab, to report a claim, please call our office during regular business hours, and an agency representative will be happy to assist you. And and then there's a phone number. We realize some claims require immediate attention and cannot wait until regular business hours. So here's our 24-hour emergency claims number. So that's one way to do it. Mm-hmm. So giving them the phone numbers that they can then just, as we know, the push of a button, your finger, and it dials it immediately from the smartphone. And another website instruction page I found from another agency and another provider of web services is one that actually has a submission form, a tracking form for claims reporting that also gives phone numbers and the list of the carriers. But make sure that your agency website has information on what to do those initial steps.
Good.
Third one, George, is this. Boy, keep that policyholder informed. I call this making the call. So now the policyholder submitted the claim and has expectations that have probably been set by the adjuster. I will be back in touch with you. Please get this estimate. I mean, there's an expectation that's been set in this negotiation of handling this claim. Now, people have expectations, and people do not like to have their expectations disappointed. They want them met. So what I suggest you do is if the policyholder, your client, says to you, yes, the claim adjuster said that they would be in touch by noon on Wednesday, the really good caring agent at 1 o'clock on Wednesday, at 2 o'clock on Wednesday, will call and say, hey, have you heard from the adjuster? Because if you don't do that, and for some reason they don't hear from the adjuster, at 5 o'clock, don't you think you're going to get a call, because you've been involved so far, and they're going to say, hey, what am I, lunch meat? So I always say this, George, when you make the call, who's in charge of the call? When you initiate a call?
I am.
You're in charge of the call. When they initiate the call, who's in charge of the call?
You know.
They are. Yeah. And so don't you want to be in charge of the call? Don't you want to be in charge of being proactive and seeing to it that their expectations are being met?
Absolutely.
My guess is that we all do.
Of course.
Absolutely. So, are you with me so far, George?
So far.
Oh, so far. Okay,
Yep.
Let's go on to number 4. What an opportune time for us to do an account review. I have clients in Florida, and do you remember that in the years 2004 and 2005, there were all those hurricanes along the Gulf Coast? Mm-hmm. And especially in 2004, there were many in Florida. Now, I have a client on the panhandle of Florida, and what they realized, and agents hope this. They hope that there is adequate coverage and the limits are in place, and all these claims are going to be handled correctly, and as I said, the coverage is in place. But sometimes it's not. And even if you don't have a claim, because of claims circling around you, don't you pay more attention to your insurance? Don't you wonder if when you have a claim, if you're going to be covered adequately and properly? And so what my client did again in Florida, is the whole agency had an initiative to do account reviews after the first couple of hurricanes hit. Mm-hmm. George, they had to set appointments. They had people coming in. They had people doing them on the phone. They had lines out the door. They had to add more seats in their waiting room. People want account reviews. And that is something we so forget. So after a claim, And again, you hope that right stuff is in place so that it's handled properly. And even if it is, you say, you know what, now might be a time for us to regroup and to be sure that we have a clear understanding of what insurance risk you have, what exposures you have, and to give you choices of what you want to have covered in the event of a claim.
Perfect timing.
Perfect timing, yeah. Number 5 is this.
Oh, sorry, but that always happens.
Oh, that's all right. Business is being done. Number 5. This is also the time to give advice on how to avoid future losses. And let me give you a couple of examples of that. In 2011, in June of 2011, my husband and I had a lightning strike on our house. And if you know anybody that's ever had a lightning damage claim, it is just unbelievable. It is immediate damage. It is damage that shows up a couple weeks later. It is just crazy stuff. And it was because, and it takes like weeks to figure all that out. It was just a crazy time. So I had a first-hand example of that kind of claim. But it was the claim adjuster, not my agent, who said, you know what, if you have all these trees around your house and you've been hit by lightning before, but it wasn't to that extent, have you ever thought of putting a surge protector on the box coming into the house? You know, there are other ways to do this. And if you have a lot of major electronic devices, which we do, most households do, and when you buy it at like Best Buy, did you know that you can buy a warranty that, you know, covers lightning with no deductible? You know, maybe that's something you might want to consider.
That's good.
Yeah, give
That's
advice how to avoid future losses.
Perfect.
On the personal line side, I have always been a proponent of agents offering what we sort of call them prayer meetings. Meetings with newly licensed drivers, teenage drivers, that you go through a family auto agreement on the do's and don'ts of driving when you are entrusted with the family vehicle and you're entrusted with the lives of your friends. So it's a family auto agreement meeting. And I certainly encourage agents to do that at the time that parents are adding a youthful operator to the policy. But what better time to have a regrouping of that, a session again with the youthful operator after, let's hope it's only, a minor bump up. You know, you don't just handle the claim the way you should professionally and again, be their guide, but you say, you know, why don't you come in and let's talk again with your teenage driver about the responsibilities of operating a vehicle. So give advice, how to avoid future losses.
Good.
Yeah. So the next one is this, number 6. Deliver the check personally if possible, or know when the money will be delivered. You know, this is when the rubber meets the road. And I do work with a carrier, a major carrier, who lets the agents know, if they want to know, how the money is being delivered and when. So, you know, a lot of this money is delivered electronically now. It doesn't come by check. I mean, or a lot of it's written on the spot. But know when it's being delivered so that you can say, hey, did you receive your money? Or if it's a big one, you know, think of those big oversized checks, George, when someone wins the lottery.
Yeah, right.
You know, I mean, just think of saying, hey, I've brought you your check. You know, why not be a part of why they've bought insurance from you?
Good idea.
Yeah. Send a follow-up survey. I've been recommending this for the 20 years I've been in business. How do we know what our clients want if we don't ask them? How do we know how they've been served if you don't ask them? So a simple follow-up claim survey, which I have a lot of free documents, 30 free documents, George, on my website, which is sellingstrategies.com.
Good.
And my service surveys are the first document there. But simply, you know, was your call handled courteously? Did you hear from the adjuster when expected? Did the adjuster clearly explain what needed to be done? Were there any problems in obtaining estimates or getting through the claim process? Was payment made to you or the appropriate party in a timely manner? Did we follow up? Were we helpful guides? Could we have done anything to serve you better? And even though everyone's using electronic surveys now, I recommend sending a letter, yes, an old-fashioned stamped letter with a return mail postcard, prepaid, postage-paid postcard, with a few of these questions on the back of a postcard that they check off, and they can write their comments and they can put it in the mail. And my clients, who are these Main Street independent agents with personal connections, just like Nate, they get back these cards in the mail. And what better way to give your company feedback, what better way to give your staff feedback, and what better way to reconfirm that personal connection with your policyholder.
Good.
Number 8. This one has been controversial when I mention it to a live audience. Consider calling the injured party. And people say to me, are you out of your mind? I mean, this isn't where we should tread. This isn't where we should enter. However, in the same audience, I have someone that says, this is how I get new clients. This is how I get new clients. I call and they say, hey, we just dialed an 800 number. And you're calling me and you're not even my agent? Talk to me about what you do.
I like that.
Yeah, how about that? How about that? So consider calling the injured party. Number 9. My clients, those Main Street, mayhem day-to-day, calls coming at you, things to handle, have a lot going on. And unfortunately, this claim process can get lost in the shuffle. You just keep resetting that diary, right? You're going to do it tomorrow. You're going to do it tomorrow. And again, this is where the rubber meets the road. So I recommend, even if you don't have a fully designated claims person in your agency, so that the CSRs, your account managers, handle the claims themselves for the accounts that they handle. That's fine. But please assign one person to oversee the claim handling process, to keep the roster of claims, open claims in the office. And unless there's a disaster, there aren't that many, thank goodness. But assign one person to say to someone, are you doing your job? May I help? Can we follow up? You know, create a team to be sure that there is contact with the policyholder. And the agencies who have done that and assigned this small additional responsibility just to track the claims, to be sure that there's personal connections and the claims are going the way they should be, tell me that there's a great advantage to that. Great advantage to that.
I can see why.
And I can tell you what the great advantage is right now, which is number 10. Oh, I'll give you the great advantages in just a minute. I forgot about number 10. Inform the appropriate staff about the claim. And where this recommendation comes from is I have an agency owner who has an unbelievably effective team of agents. And they all do their jobs just the way they're supposed to do it. So the agency owner, this is the good news, doesn't get involved day-to-day in issues that he does not need to be involved in. Mm-hmm. So here's the story he tells me. It's a Saturday morning, and he's in the community. You know, he's at the, at the ball field or doing errands, and he runs into someone, and it's a friend and a policyholder. And they have a conversation, how are you, how are you? And his policyholder friend says to him, you didn't ask me how Susan was since she had her automobile accident. Mm. Well, guess what?
He didn't know.
George didn't know, yeah, that there was an accident because everything was going smoothly. And so I've often said, make sure people in your office know about claims. And again, pushback from my audience has said, wait, a lot of this is personal. A lot of this is confidential. People do not want their personal business to be out in public, and I get that. However, make sure that there are key people. The producer on the account, maybe the agency owner, needs to know what's transpiring on the accounts in the agency. So those are my 10 tips, and let me move on to what the benefits are of caring claim handling. When you execute these 10 thoughts, or 8 of the 10 thoughts, anyone that would heighten that personal connection, that caring, that reconfirmation of why they do business with you, you are indeed confirming you are the reason they do business with you. You are their advocate, and they have a positive experience to share with others. And this is the stuff that builds your business. It
Amen.
builds your reputation.
Amen.
It gains referrals. So my call to action for the listeners on your Monday morning webinar is this. What can or will you do differently in the office with regard to caring claim handling? And I hope I've planted some seeds
You
for
have
people
indeed.
to
Yeah,
improve.
You have, and I hope that everybody will, after they listen to this, go back to the email that came with it, and on the upper right-hand side is forward it to everybody in your agency. I think that's a good one. I think this should be done. How do they contact you?
Oh, thank you, George. I'm glad you asked. I have a slide for that. I am Emily Huling. My business for 20 years is selling strategies out of beautiful North Carolina. I have my office and my mobile number there. My email address, and sellingstrategies.com is my website. And I plan on doing this for many more years. Love working with the independent agents, and I just thank you for this opportunity to share these tips so that our agents can serve
I think it's
their
beautiful.
policyholders better.
Absolutely. You've done a wonderful job, Emily, as usual. And every time I listen to you, I learn more and more and more. I'm making more notes there. So in the meantime, thank you. People, go see what Emily's got. Go to that website. That's a pretty amazing thing, too. And Emily, again, I thank you. And for the rest of you, I will see you